y'all. Welcome to Sharpen, where no matter the candid conversation, we always seem to whittle life down to what matters most. And we hope that as you hang out with us today, you will be inspired to do the same. My name is Nicole Payne. This is Danielle Perry. This is Lynn Root. And this is Natyra Blount. And today, our topic is transforming thinking. This was Lynn's idea, y'all, but we all liked it.
Hater.
Already out to some shenanigans. Y'all know how we do it. God is leading me in a way where I'm intrigued by how we feel and how we think and how that biblically what that means. Because there's a lot of crazy stuff out here, a lot of pseudoscience and what do they call that? Bad psychology. That can lead you into the abyss of things that are ungodly. But there's also a way that God designed for us to understand how we think and how we feel and how we process.
Yeah.
And I don't want believers to negate what God says about how He's wired us, thinking and feeling, all of those things. But I thought that was very interesting because basically our minds, which are intangible, affect the tangible structure of the brains that God created. So we do ourselves well to think the way that He wants us to think because we're doing our physical brain a service.
Right.
I think, honestly, I think they say, I'm not an expert, I'm not a doctor, because I know sometimes you got to say that when you record stuff.
Not.
But I don't think Alzheimer's is linked to, I don't think there are any studies yet that say this is the cause of it, but I honestly do believe that, my opinion, some people who struggle mentally throughout their lives can develop Alzheimer's because of the connection between our minds.
Some research out there like that.
Okay.
Like when you ruminate on negative things for so long, it affects something in your brain that makes you susceptible to Alzheimer's.
Yeah. Like I remember, I think it was the last Sharpen episode, I was explaining to y'all how I was forgetting things, and I was just like, oh shoot, like I'm too young to be, forgetting stuff, but I think that was because my mind wasn't stable. My mind was so focused on the wrong things too much that it just took my focus off of the right things. And so that forgetting, you know what I mean? So I do believe that dementia and Alzheimer's and things like that can be linked to our thinking patterns, especially after you explained what you just explained with our thinking, our minds and our brains.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Next question, what's a mindset you've had that's been more difficult to transform than others? And why do you think? Why are you looking at me like that? You look like that meme of that little boy that looked like this. With the bangs.
And he blinks.
Yes. Danny just sent me that yesterday.
Oh, that one.
Yeah.
That one's funny.
Yeah.
I think things, I'm sorry, y'all. I hope I'm not talking too much.
You're doing great.
Okay.
That's why we're here. That's right.
I think things that pertain to our families can be things things that are difficult to overcome mentally. Is that your question?
What's a mindset you've had that's been more difficult to overcome than others?
Yeah. I think things pertaining to family because a lot of traumas are. I just spit.
You do that in every episode too.
What? You gotta put me on blast.
You put yourself on blast.
Oh, okay, I did. I think because we have so many traumas linked to our childhood, I think that it can be difficult to overcome thinking patterns that we've developed because of things that we've experienced in our childhood. And a lot of things that we experience in our childhood are within a family dynamic. So I think that it can definitely be difficult to overcome, things dealing with our thinking when it comes to family for sure. And relationships. Relationships, whether it be within family or friendships, or I just really think any relationship that you held dear to your heart. Let's just say if there was something like just something traumatic that happened within that relationship, I think also if you're not careful, you'll begin to apply whatever happened there to just other relationships that that you may be trying to build, or relationships that are trying to manifest in your life, but they can't because of something that happened in a past relationship. So I think, I really think relationships in general, when there's something traumatic that happens in a relationship, your thinking can heavily be affected by that. And so even I think about, and I don't know why my mind just went here, but, people who may have been molested or raped, there wasn't a relationship there. Well, I'm not going to say that because it depends on the situation, but I'm just thinking about, in particular, girls or young women who didn't know whoever that person was that violated them. It's not always a deep connection that you need to have with a person. You may not know that person well, but because a violation was there, but your thinking can just be so skewed. So it doesn't necessarily have to be someone that you know well. If somebody did something to you that you didn't know well, that relational, what am I trying to say? That relational connection can now just be applied to other people that look like that person, other people that remind you of that person. I hope I'm making sense.
Yeah, it's like you're carrying a mold, and now you're putting that mold on every new thing that comes.
Yes. Yeah. So I just think that when it comes to people and how we relate to people or how they relate to us, when it's not done right, that can create a dangerous, a negative, a skewed thinking pattern that you have to come out of. You have to, because that will just affect your life in every area.
Right.
So I hope I made sense.
You did.
But
You did. What was the question?
Question 1. What's a mindset you've had that's been more difficult to transform than others?
what is happening?
Hey, you need a repetition.
Got to bring it back to the question. I agree with Danny that a lot of those deeply rooted ideas that have been around for so long, just kind of from since you can remember, trying to unthink those things and not apply them to new situations and new people. I think those are the ones that are the hardest. Not necessarily something I learned in school and then the research has changed or that kind of stuff, but just things with regards to this is what I got to do to survive or this is what I have to do to maintain or, things like that where you found yourself in a specific mode so that you could make it day to day. And this is what got you through all those years. Doesn't necessarily mean that it's something for this season or something for adulthood or something you need to apply to your being a mother or apply to being a wife or apply at this juncture in your career. And it's kind of like teachers. And the old school joints that still be trying to use dittos and what you be like, we ain't doing that no more though. Where your Promethean board at?
Yeah. Right.
I don't like these boards, but they here.
Overhead projectors and stuff.
They here. You need to learn how to use them. Like you mad. Right. You got 150,000 pieces of chart paper in your classroom, but you don't need to have all that. And going paperless. Things that people are just like, well, I don't do it like that. And the way I did it worked. The way you did it worked in 1972. This is 2022. Or the way you did it worked in 88 when you were 8 years old. And now you ain't got to do that no more. Right. You ain't got to be on that struggle bus no more. And trying to change our minds, but not feeling like... So I grapple with like the way my kids think versus the way I thought as a child. And I'm like... they were having a conversation about Dunkin' Donuts, and one of my kids, I'm trying not to call them out, but they were just like, I don't too much enjoy.
But you're doing it with the boys.
And I was like, bro, when I was a kid, first of all, donuts, what are those? But like somebody brought some donuts to the house. It was like Christmas. Yeah. And I bring donuts and you're like, no thanks. Kidding me? Like, it's just the thing, like Kwesi was talking about, like these 2022 children. Mm-hmm. You used to be looking like, what's wrong with y'all? Mm-hmm. But just trying to say, well, Natara, you know, this is not the 90s. Yeah. Mm-hmm. You know, and things are just different. And your children have a completely different lifestyle than you had. Yeah. You know, like how you don't know what a roach is. Mm-hmm. But I guess that's good. That's great. That's great. I remember being appalled because I forgot what it was, an ant or something. I said, look, at least you don't deal with no roaches. Uh-huh. And one of my kids was like, what's a roach? And I was like, what? I was really like, what?
Oh my gosh.
I mean, this said child knows what it is now because, you know, we talked about it and everything. And we saw one day. Oh, can't say that. What you got to say? I'm sorry.
No, it wasn't me. I don't eat there.
Yeah, my bad. But, but just think. But just our, you know, just what helped us when we were kids. Right. And now you just try, like, Natara, chill. Like, relax. They don't like Dunkin' Donuts. Just don't go buy them. Yeah. Right. And when I go after this, I'm getting one. Right. Correct. Just for me. Yeah. Because it's still a treat for me. Yeah. Right. And I got a whole job. Right. But that's okay. They ain't got now. Right. It's okay. But just trying to... the way you were raised, or you know, trying to take stuff that's just been in there for so long. Yeah. Even with relationships, even the relationship with the same person, and some people you've known for so long, and you're just like, yeah, but you used to try to play me all the time. Like, nah, and it's like, but they're not the same person. Right. And transforming your mind about people who are still in your circle, or especially family, because they still there for the most part. Yeah. And trying to change your mind about them and how you react to them, or even the filter that you use when they say and do things. Right. Trying to get your mind right. Even with your spouse. Right. Yeah. My husband and I have been married for 17 years. He's not the same guy. Right. That's right. When we were 19, he's not. We're you know, we up there a little bit,
which is a good thing.
Correct. Right. But still, just. Like that happened when y'all were 22. Like, relax, get over it, and set that man free from what he said that time when that you didn't like. He was dead wrong, but still. So trying to.
You said something. You said mental filter. I think filters can be good and bad. Because when you said what you said about, you know, when it comes to family, we're so familiar with our family and how they operate, right? That we have to filter out, all right, we already know that when she comes, she gonna be, but you know, that filter is good in the sense that you're able to kind of at times block out whatever the nonsense is and not allow it to affect you. Right. But then the filter can be bad when it becomes a hindrance in the sense of you're not allowing people to change.
Right. That's right. Yeah.
Because now that filter is, well, I already know what they're gonna do, but then when they actually do something different, it's kind of like, no, that's not gonna last. Right, you know, they gonna be back right there. You know, they gonna be right back doing what they're doing. You know, but like you said, that your 19 or your 22-year-old Montague is not the same. So allowing space, allowing room for people to change. Right. Because I don't know about you all, I'm thinking about relationships that I've had with people where I've changed and they did it, and I'm like, oh, dang, I used to be connected to you like that, right? And you was acting like that, right? You know what I mean? So, it's giving room for people to change because we will want people to do the same for us.
Absolutely.
So, exactly. Because if you don't, then you allow bitterness and unforgiveness. Really, that starts to settle in.
Absolutely.
And that's where those are the hindrances. Going back to the obstacle, is that the obstacle? Are we on that? Okay, either way. I'm there.
She said,
Hey,
Either way, I'm going there.
number
All
two,
right.
back at number two.
Because that's where the obstacles come in. You're still not allowing God to transform your mind. You're not being the transformee.
Right.
That's
Yeah,
not
that's
a
true.
word, but I'm gonna throw it in there.
yeah, we get what you're saying.
Okay.
So before I move on to the last question, I just wanted to share what has been a difficult mindset to change for me, and it actually points to what you said on Danny on your recent word of encouragement video. The why me or why this mindset for me that has been hard to change. Why me with this? Why did this have to happen? Why do I have to struggle with this? Why me? Why this? That mindset has been difficult for me to change, whatever regarding whatever the situation. But God replaces that with, and you shared that this is what your therapist said to you. But why not me? Like with God, it can always become why not me? Without God, I don't know where you gonna take your mind. You know, it's probably gonna stay to why me. I don't know. But with God, it can always turn into why not me, because He can always cause things
Romans
to work together
8:28,
for our good, and not just our good. Because when it becomes our good, He's got us situated in a posture where we can help bring good to somebody else
Right.
because our perspective has changed.
Right.
Yep. Absolutely.
Last question. Doing well on time. We have about 15 more minutes. What are some strategies to help with transforming thinking? Y'all know I got my notes.
We do.
Y'all want to
You can start on.
Okay.
It's apparent you want to go first.
Well, I just didn't want that awkward
Wow.
silence, like nobody had
Dang.
anything to say.
I feel like I've been talking a lot. That's why I didn't say anything.
Well, it's only 4 of us, Dan.
But still.
Ooh, you should saw the face she made though.
Trust that the Word of God is the safest place to go for what to think.
Yes.
What you saying, Nick?
Trust that the Word of God is the safest place to go for what to think.
Yes.
You know, and I want to be able to connect with unbelievers, like people who don't want nothing to do with church, have never been exposed to church, or have had bad experiences with church and what they think bad experiences with God have been. I want to be able to speak to them as well, because I know that a lot of churchanese or church jargon can kind of turn people off.
Right.
But the truth is what it is, though. You
Right.
see what I'm saying? And the Word of God is truth, is the truth. And really, you know, this is not to be condescending, but outside of the Word of God is a very dangerous place to navigate.
Yes.
So the Bible and what God has to say, because He is the creator of all, what He has to say, how the way that He wants to let us know He's defined us, and the way that we should identify, it is in the Word of God. You know, bottom line. Also, we've said this before, be patient with yourself and the process of transformation.
Right.
And again, remembering that for us overachievers, Nat, for us overachievers,
I'm
God
one.
does
I'm one.
Oh, I know.
Now you know.
Right.
Because you're so smart. You was always good in school and stuff. And we're not gonna talk about what you do every Sunday. So praise and worship. Anyway,
What?
just saying, like she was
sound.
like so anointed.
No, what was
and-
her sound that just came
That was
out
me
her
saying
mouth?
stop.
God does the transforming. What we supposed to do is be obedient.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And regardless of how ugly the process looks, we have to trust that He's in control.
Yeah.
Right.
And we leave Him in control when we keep going back to Him with obedience.
Right.
Right.
This is real important to me. Know that avoidance of something is not necessarily the same thing as transformation around that thing.
Right.
You right.
Meaning that avoiding areas in our lives, our minds, or our emotions that we haven't let God into is only prolonging the transformation.
Yes.
Process.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Avoidance
That's right.
is sometimes a coping mechanism to run from things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Stop it.
Yep.
Yes.
Cut it out. That's
We
good.
gotta cut it out.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
good stuff. That's true.
That's good.
God's helping me
I
with
gotta put
that.
that one down.
Yeah.
It's like I ain't writing it down.
What you say? What she say?
Stop it. She said stop it.
I have more, but somebody else might want to say something.
She's giving all of them.
I just, that was really important to me.
What was the question
yeah,
again?
The
I'm
question
sorry.
was, what are some strategies to help with transforming thinking?
Writing things down.
That's good too.
And I got really nice penmanship.
You
but-
do. It's beautiful.
Thank you.
Always admired it.
You write in cursive, right?
Yes.
Both.
But
Regular
her,
and regular.
it looks like
Regular and regular.
Yeah, remember you and your husband had a full conversation about the formation of letters and how some have changed over time. Transforming my mind by the letter Q. It don't look like the number 2 no more. In cursive.
I used to hate that.
It's the best. It's a challenge and rise to it. But journaling.
Yes.
I don't always like to write, and normally when I'm in the mood for journaling, I'm normally in my bed. So I don't necessarily want to sit up, put on a lamp or whatever, especially if Montague's sleeping. So but I do use my notepad on my phone because I can do that in the dark.
Right.
Yeah.
I can do that half woke.
Right.
So I have gotten more into the habit. I do it in the form of prayer, which works well for me to make sure that I am not just throwing things out, but when I do it in a form of prayer, I'm intentionally giving it to God. Sometimes we just throw things out, but you ain't say nothing to God about it. Not for real, really.
Right.
Because you don't really want to know what he's going to say toward it. But in the form of prayer, kind of going through, laying out what I'm going through, laying out what I'm thinking about, that whole metacognitive, process. Thinking about your thinking. That's Baltimore City. But thinking about how I'm thinking, putting it down. But what I like is there is an app that I use where I put my prayers in, and then later, and when I go back into prayer, I can look at my prayers, and you can update it, you can answer it. Some people who I think are part of it, I include. Like I invite my husband to almost all of them because he will more than likely say something. Or one of the things I told him, I said, when you get that notification, just read it whenever you have time. That's a way of you knowing what's going on in here, even if I'm not really talking to you about it. It really does. But then I can go back and look at it too and be like, oh, okay, and then I can say something else to the prayer. So that it's like journaling for me, but just writing it down or documenting it and going back and looking at it, and then you're more prone to see the progress, because sometimes we don't feel like we have made progress. So you go back and be like, oh, okay, that's it. Let me update this. And then you can kind of see, all right, I'm coming out of it a little bit. I'm not this far under the water. I'm coming up a little. I'm seeing a little bit of the light. I'm coming out of this flood or whatever. And that helps the journaling or writing it down, documenting, because we sometimes I find a little bit of comfort in not writing things down or not making a full note of things. Then I don't have to be held accountable to it, or I don't have to think about it no more.
I've heard you say that before. Yeah.
But if I write it down, or if I involve somebody else in it, now somebody gonna ask me about it later. I got low key irritated with my supervisor yesterday because we had a meeting, and I have this goal for my students and their foundational reading and their writing and relating it and setting them up. I was like, this goal is hitting, right? And we talked about it. She was like, yes. She said, now what about you? We need a wholeness goal for you. And I was looking at her like, mind your business, bro. Because she was like, what are you doing for you outside of this? You're going to get your nails done. You're going to do this. And, I hear it a lot, and I just be like, we ain't got time for all that. All right. Okay. Okay. I had a cup of coffee. But I just remember yesterday, I was like, oh, okay. I remember feeling irritated, but once, and then she gonna say, when you set the goal, send it to me. Tell me the frequency of it, and I'm gonna check up with you. Who told you to? But I think it'll help me to do something. It's good. It was not even like it wasn't even work related.
Right. It's something pleasure.
Exactly.
Pleasure, right.
But I was just like, mind yours.
Yeah.
And I'm a mind mine. But it helps when you start to involve other people.
Right.
Then that helps you also make sure you're still thinking about the thing that you're supposed to be growing in that season.
Because too, she wants to play a part, and this is probably what they are mandated to do now. I don't know. But sounds like she wants to play a part in making sure that you're fine, so that you could be there to do what you're supposed to do for those children. You know what I mean? If you ain't fine, Miss Brown might be out some days.
And she also has a little insight of to what's going on at home too. So I think she's very genuine as well. That's my work twin. We look alike. Some of the kids call her. She's I've been at school forever. She's newer. She's the resident principal. But sometimes people call her Miss Blount, especially when she's got a mask on. And she's really cool. We remind each other of each other. So I think also it's just very genuine too. But I was just like, I got a reading writing goal. What is we doing? Okay.
And I think too, when we look at the other side of that accountability, when we don't see our own progress, someone else is able to see it.
Right. Yeah.
Because when you said what you said about Montague and how you guys share that the journaling, I'm like, wow, that's really
That's
on
cool.
point.
Yeah, that sounds really
Because he can not only tell you, yeah, Natira, I have noticed this in you lately,
Right.
and yeah, this is something that you should continue to work on. But he can also say, actually, Natira, you don't really do that as much as you used to. Like, you may think you do, but you actually don't. So I think that's another way to look on the other side of it. It's not just you and my business, but it's also, okay, you can actually show me, okay, I am doing better. Thank you.
Right.
So,
Or any final thoughts? We have about 5 minutes.
your hair growing.
It is. I was looking at it.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
It's growing.
And you got to change your mind about how to style it.
She just right. You right though.
You do.
Trying to bring it back around.
That's very good. Oh,
What was the last question?
the last question.
You said
So you mean the one we been talking about all the time?
Not number 2. That's the one
that
she
was
liked.
low key shade though. You mean the one we've been talking about all this time?
What are some strategies, or maybe just
I
one,
can't stand none of y'all right now.
to help with transforming thinking?
Okay. Surrender. So,
Sanity.
Go ahead, say your thing, girl.
no, it is.
What?
Sanity is in the surrender.
Okay.
It is. 'Cause
P.O.
you-
said it the other day. He quoted you.
He been quoting you for a minute.
Yeah.
Because I'm like that. No, I'm just
oh.
playing.
She know we finna end, so she just showing out.
Okay, you need some milk.
Talking about this.
What in the world?
So what? Told
Milk.
you
Why milk?
That's a saying these
I don't know.
days.
I know.
Is it really?
Yeah.
You need some milk.
You need some milk.
Yeah.
Nourishment,
Okay.
maybe.
Okay.
It is. So my transformation has been a really long journey. However, it was a point where I wasn't transforming my mind, and I was thinking about Justin's. I repeated a conversation. I repeated something to a social worker who I was at a school I was at. And she said, you speak as though this event happened yesterday. And it didn't. It had been like a number of years, right? And I was like, I do. Like, I actually do. And I remember going home, getting in the shower, just bawling and crying and surrendering. Just asking God, I can't take it anymore. I can't do this anymore. I need you to help me. I need you to rid me of these emotions that were happening, that I had been carrying for so long. And it was in that moment that I surrendered, that the transformation started. Now, I'm not saying it was it was just like, boom, like that. It was immediate and I was just good and fine. It was still a process. And it still is a process. But when you surrender and put it down and allow God you be the transformee and God be the transformer, then your perspective is changing. It's no longer skewed. And you do end up gaining a level. You do end up gaining sanity. You do end up gaining joy. You do end up gaining happiness, but you do end up gaining the peace that surpasses all understanding. And that calmness that doesn't have you flying off at the handle, doesn't have you, has you listening, be swift to hear, slow to speak, slow to wrath. Those things begin to develop when you surrender. And you know that you don't have this ability, despite the fact that we are, extraordinary beings, but knowing that we were created by an extraordinary God. And we have to go back to who created us. We're not just this cosmo that all of a sudden appeared in the earth from this big bang. And, okay, now all of a sudden I just appeared. That somebody actually took the time to create me and then allowed me to be formed in somebody else's womb to, have this appointed time in the earth.
Respect. All right, y'all. So we're going to wrap up. I got to read this part because I'll be forgetting. To make sure that you can kick it with us on a consistent basis, check the show notes for the direct links to all the platforms where this podcast is available, or you can keep watching right here. This podcast is also a part of the Just Be brand, which you can follow via the links in the show notes as well. There is merch and all there, y'all. Thanks so much for kicking it today with us here at Sharpen, where no matter the candid conversation, we always end up whittling life down to what matters most. And we hope that as you hung with us today, you were inspired to do the same. We'll see y'all next time.
Bye. Enrich the itch.
What the world?
She thought that was bomb to put at the end.
Look,
They've been reading it the whole time.
You ain't tell us the way our sweatshirt
Lynn,
is.
don't do
No,
that every time.
exactly.
Every
so I was